Clean out your desk, little brother. Real businessmen don't need charity cases. Those words hit me like a fist to the gut. My own brother, my own blood, stood there in Dad's old office, smirking while his 3 MBA buddies laughed behind him. The office that still smelled like Dad's coffee. The desk where I'd spent countless nights helping build this company from 12 employees to over 200. I looked at the faces around the room. Brad, Connor, Tyler. None of them knew what a carburetor was, let alone how our clients actually used our products. But they had degrees. They had connections. And apparently, that's all that mattered now. You've got 30 minutes, my brother continued, adjusting his new Rolex. Security will escort you out. The room went silent. I could hear the air conditioning humming. Someone coughed. Here's what nobody expected. I smiled. Not a fake smile. A real one. Because in that moment, watching him puff up like a peacock in a suit 2 sizes too expensive, I knew something he didn't. Something that would change everything. I stood up slowly, buttoned my jacket, and extended my hand. Congratulations on your new venture, brother. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. He looked confused but shook it anyway, his grip weak and sweaty. His buddies had stopped laughing. There was something in my calm that unsettled them. I could tell. Good. I packed my desk in silence. 8 years of my life fit into one cardboard box. Photos with Dad. My old hard hat from the shop floor. The Employee of the Year plaque that suddenly felt like a joke. But I wasn't bitter. Not yet. I was calculating. Because here's what my brother didn't know. 3 days earlier, I'd gotten a call. A very interesting call from someone who'd been watching his management style very closely. Someone who controlled 60% of our revenue. Someone who was about to make my brother's life very, very complicated. As I walked past him, box in hand, he called out, "Oh, and brother, don't bother using me as a reference. I'd hate to lie about your performance." His friends laughed again, louder this time, performing for their new boss. I stopped the door and turned back one last time. You know what Dad used to say? A title doesn't make you a leader. Results do. I paused. Good luck with the Garrison account. His face went pale. Just for a second. But I saw it. 6 months. That's how long it took for everything to fall apart for him. 6 months before his tune changed completely. Before the voicemail that lasted 4 minutes. Before he understood what he'd actually lost when he fired me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand how we got here. You need to know what Dad built, what I helped him build, and what my brother destroyed in less than 3 months because he thought an MBA was worth more than 8 years of bleeding for this company. So let me take you back. Dad started Cornerstone Manufacturing in his garage in 1987. Just him, a welder, and a dream to build the best industrial parts in the Midwest. By the time I was old enough to hold a wrench, I was working weekends beside him, learning every machine, every process, every client's specific needs. My brother? He was busy being the golden child. Honor roll, debate team, college prep courses. Dad was proud of him, sure. But when the shop needed someone at 2 a.m. because a client had an emergency order, he called me. I never minded. I loved the smell of metal and machine oil. Loved seeing something we built actually work in the real world. Dad and I had this rhythm. He'd sketch designs on napkins over breakfast, and by dinner, we'd have a prototype. You've got the gift, son, he'd tell me, grease under his fingernails, pride in his eyes. You understand what the customer needs before they even say it. My brother visited the shop maybe twice a year, always in clean clothes. Always rushing back to whatever networking event or study group he had. Dad never pushed him. Everyone's got their own path, he'd say. But I saw the disappointment when my brother would barely glance at our latest innovation before checking his phone. By the time I was 25, I was operations manager. We'd grown to 50 employees. Dad handled sales and vision. I handled everything else. We were a team. An unbeatable team. Then my brother graduated with his MBA. Debt-free, thanks to Dad. Job offers from 3 states. And he picked the one in California as far from our small Indiana town as possible. I need to build my own legacy, he told Dad at his going-away dinner. Dad just nodded and hugged him. But that night, after everyone left, I found Dad in his office, staring at a photo of both of us as kids. I built this for both my sons, he said quietly. Hope that still means something. It meant everything to me. For the next 8 years, I poured my soul into Cornerstone. We landed the Garrison account, our biggest client, $15 million annually. I personally flew out to their headquarters, spent a week understanding their needs, designed a custom solution that saved them 30% on maintenance costs. Dad had a heart attack at his desk on a Tuesday. He was reviewing my proposal for expanding into automation. His coffee was still warm when I found him. The funeral was packed. Clients, employees, suppliers, people whose lives Dad had touched. My brother flew in the night before, left the day after. At the reception, he was already talking business. We need to modernize, he told some of Dad's oldest friends. This company needs fresh thinking. I was too numb to argue, too destroyed to care. Dad was gone. The man who taught me everything. The man who believed in me when I barely graduated high school. Gone. The will reading happened a week later. Dad's attorney, Mr. Kowalski, looked uncomfortable. He cleared his throat 3 times before starting. To my eldest son, I leave controlling interest and leadership of Cornerstone Manufacturing. My brother nodded like he'd expected this. Maybe he had. To my youngest son, I leave 30% shares and... Mr. Kowalski paused, my gratitude for his dedication and heart. 30%. Not control, not leadership, just shares. And gratitude. My brother's hand was already on my shoulder, squeezing. Don't worry, little brother. We'll make a great team. But his eyes said something different. His eyes said I won. After everyone left, just him and me in that office, his mask dropped. Things are changing. Starting Monday. His voice was cold, businesslike. I'm bringing in some consultants. Real professionals. We need to run this like a real company, not Dad's hobby shop. That's when I knew. Dad's Cornerstone was about to die. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. Monday morning felt wrong. The parking lot had 3 rental cars I didn't recognize. Expensive ones. Through the office windows, I could see strangers in suits walking around with clipboards, pointing at things, taking notes like they were appraising estate sale items. I found my brother in the conference room with 3 guys who looked like they'd never touched a tool in their lives. Pressed shirts, designer glasses, that specific kind of confidence that comes from never being wrong because you've never actually built anything. There he is, my brother announced. Guys, this is my little brother. He ran operations. Ran. Past tense. Already. The tall one, Brad, didn't offer his hand. Just looked me up and down like I was a problem on a spreadsheet. We've been reviewing the operational structure. Lot of inefficiencies. Lot of old school thinking that's bleeding money. Our profit margins increased 12% last quarter. I said evenly. That's not growth, that's stagnation, Connor interrupted, the one with the perfect hair. You're leaving money on the table. Your labor costs are absurd. Benefits package? In this economy? That's just poor resource allocation. These were Dad's employees. People who'd worked here 15, 20 years. People whose kids I knew by name. And this guy was calling them resources. My brother leaned back, hands behind his head. We're restructuring, bringing in automation where we can, cutting redundancies. Standard business optimization. Dad built this company on relationships, I said. Our clients don't just buy parts. They buy trust. They buy the lowest price with acceptable quality. Tyler cut in. That's basic market economics. The emotional stuff? That's not scalable. I looked at my brother. Waited for him to say something. Defend what we'd built. Defend what Dad had built. He just shrugged. Times change. Either we evolve or we die. Over the next 3 weeks, I watched them gut everything Dad had created. They fired Maggie from HR, 22 years with the company, knew every employee's birthday. Redundant position. They eliminated the Christmas bonuses that Dad had never missed, even during the recession. Unnecessary expenditure. They cut the quality control team from 5 people to 2. Streamlining. I tried talking to my brother. Alone. Brother to brother. You're destroying what made us special, I told him. No, he said, not looking up from his laptop. I'm making us profitable. We were profitable. We were comfortable. There's a difference. He finally met my eyes. Dad played it safe. That's why we're regional instead of national. That's why we're not on any investor radars. That's why this company's value is nowhere near its potential. Dad built a company people were proud to work for. Dad built a charity disguised as a business. He closed his laptop. Look, I get it. You're sentimental. You're Dad's shadow. But I'm here to make real money, not run a nostalgia project. That's when I knew. This wasn't about improving the company. This was about proving something. To Dad's memory. To himself. Maybe to me. The breaking point came when they lost the first client. Henderson Industrial, 15-year relationship. Called me directly, not my brother. What's going on over there? Jim Henderson asked. Your new account manager tried to raise our prices 30%. Said take it or leave it. That how you do business now? I apologized. Tried to fix it. But my brother had already moved on to the next opportunity. Then came the morning I got the email. Subject line, meeting 10 a.m. mandatory. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for 10 minutes, just breathing, knowing, feeling it coming like a storm. When I walked in, his MBA buddies were already there, smirking like kids who knew a secret. My brother sat in Dad's chair, his chair now, leaning back, fingers steepled. Close the door, he said. And that's when my life changed forever. The office felt smaller with the door closed. Like the walls were pressing in. My brother didn't waste time with small talk. This isn't working out, he started, his voice flat. Clinical. Your management style doesn't align with our new direction. Your resistance to change is creating friction. And frankly, your skill set is better suited for smaller operations. I just stared at him. This was really happening. Brad jumped in, consulting speak pouring out like rehearsed lines. We've conducted a comprehensive performance review. Your approach to client relations, while historically successful, lacks scalability. You're too focused on individual relationships rather than systematic processes. Those relationships bring in 40% of our revenue, I said quietly. Relationships we can maintain through proper CRM software, Connor added. You're not irreplaceable. You just think you are. My brother stood up, came around the desk. Playing the part. The big boss delivering tough news. We're moving in a different direction. Bringing in professional management. People with actual credentials and modern training. I've been here 8 years. I know every client, every machine, every. You're not listening. His voice got harder, colder. You're done. Today, I need someone who respects hierarchy. Who understands that when I make a decision, it's final. Not someone who questions me in front of the team because we grew up sharing bunk beds. There it was. The real reason. Not performance. Not strategy. Pride. Control. Proving he was in charge. Tyler slid a folder across the table. Severance package. 2 weeks. Standard non-compete clause. Sign here. 2 weeks. After 8 years of 60-hour weeks. After personally saving the Garrison account. After sleeping on the factory floor during the emergency rush orders. 2 weeks. What about my shares? I asked. Minority shares don't include operational input, Brad said, almost bored. You'll get your dividend checks. That's it. My brother walked to the door, opened it. Security's waiting to escort you out. Make this easy, okay? For old time's sake. That's when something in me cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like ice on a lake, spiderwebbing, but not shattering. I felt it spread through my chest, cold and clarifying. I looked at each of their faces. These strangers in expensive suits who'd never built anything real. Who'd never stayed up all night troubleshooting a machine because a client needed parts by morning. Who saw people as line items and loyalty as weakness. Then I looked at my brother. Really looked at him. And I didn't see family anymore. I saw a stranger wearing my brother's face, trying desperately to be someone Dad would never recognize. "You're making a mistake," I said. Not angry, not pleading, just stating fact. He laughed. Actually laughed. "Am I? Let's check back in 6 months. See who was right." His buddies laughed too. A chorus of smug, expensive college laughter that echoed off Dad's old office walls. That's when I did something that confused them all. I smiled, genuinely smiled, and extended my hand. "Congratulations on your new venture, brother." He looked at my hand like it might be a trap. But with his friends watching, he shook it. Weak grip, sweaty palm, the handshake of someone who wasn't as confident as he pretended. "Good luck with the Garrison account," I added, my voice steady, calm. And I swear, just for a heartbeat, I saw fear flash across his face. Because 3 days ago, Garrison's VP had called me. Just me. Not the company. Me. And we'd had a very interesting conversation about loyalty, quality, and what happens when companies forget why clients actually choose them. But my brother didn't know that yet. None of them did. I packed my things slowly, deliberately. Let them watch. Let them feel uncomfortable. 8 years fit into one box. Dad's old coffee mug. The photo of us at the ribbon cutting for the new facility. My worn-out safety boots that had walked every inch of this factory floor. Security guard was Danny. Known him 6 years. He looked miserable. "I'm sorry, man," he whispered as we walked. "Not your fault, Danny." The walk through the factory floor was the hardest part. People stopped working. Stared. Maggie from accounting had tears in her eyes. Old Pete from maintenance looked like he wanted to hit something. These were my people. Dad's people. And they were watching me get walked out like a criminal. I kept my head up. Kept walking. Because if I stopped, if I let myself feel it, I'd break right there on that floor. The parking lot was empty except for my truck and those 3 rental cars. Expensive metal that would be gone in a week when the consultants flew back to wherever they came from. Invoice submitted, damage done. I put the box in my passenger seat, sat in the driver's seat, and just breathed. Stared at the building that had been my second home for nearly a decade. The building where Dad had taught me everything that mattered. My phone buzzed. Text message from a number I'd saved just 3 days ago. Just 2 words. "Still interested?" I looked back at the office windows. Saw my brother standing there, watching me leave, arms crossed, victorious. He had no idea what was coming. No idea that in trying to prove he was smarter than me, than Dad, than everyone, he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. I texted back, very interested. "Let's talk details." And then I drove away from Cornerstone Manufacturing. But I wasn't defeated. Not even close. I was free. And my brother? He was about to learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between management and leadership. The war hadn't even started yet. He'd just fired the first shot. The first week felt like falling. No alarm at 5 a.m. No factory floor to walk. No problems to solve. Just silence and this growing pit in my stomach that whispered maybe they were right. Maybe you're not enough. I applied to 14 companies. Got 3 responses. All rejections. Short, polite rejections that basically said, "You're not what we're looking for." The 4th one was different. Called me in for an interview. Operations manager position at a smaller manufacturing firm. 20-minute drive. Decent pay. I wore my only suit, the one from Dad's funeral. Interview went well. Really well. They liked my experience. Liked my hands-on approach. The owner, Mr. Patterson, seemed ready to make an offer. Then his assistant brought in a message. He read it. His expression changed. "I apologize," he said, suddenly not meeting my eyes. "We're going to keep looking. We need someone with more formal education." I found out later, much later, that my brother had called him. Professional courtesy, he'd called it. "Just want to give you a heads up about my former employees' reliability issues." That's when the falling became drowning. Week 2, I got a call from Henderson Industrial. Jim sounded uncomfortable. "Look, I'm going to be straight with you. Your brother's telling people you were let go for performance issues. Says you couldn't adapt. Says you were holding the company back. He paused. That true? No, I said simply. Didn't think so. But it's making waves. People talk. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment, the small one-bedroom I'd never upgraded because I was always at work, and felt something I hadn't felt since Dad died. Rage. Pure, white-hot rage. My brother wasn't just firing me. He was destroying me. Systematically. Making sure I couldn't land anywhere. Protecting his ego by ruining my reputation. I wanted to call him. Scream at him. Drive over there and... But I didn't. Because at 2 a.m., unable to sleep, scrolling through industry forums and LinkedIn, I found something. A small detail. A tiny crack in my brother's perfect new system. The Garrison account renewal was coming up. 60-day notice required. And based on the timeline and what Jim Henderson had told me about my brother's new pricing strategy, I had a pretty good idea how that was going to go. I pulled out the business card I'd been carrying for 3 days. The one from Garrison's VP of Operations, Patricia Chun. We'd worked together for 5 years. She'd called me after Dad died, said she'd heard about the changes, wanted to check in. If you ever go independent, she'd said, call me first. We value relationships, not just invoices. At 2:15 a.m., I started writing a business plan. Not for revenge, not for ego, but because I knew something my brother and his MBA buddies didn't know. This industry runs on trust, and trust takes years to build, but seconds to destroy. By sunrise, I had 20 pages. A detailed proposal for independent consulting. Specialized manufacturing solutions. Small operation. Low overhead. High quality. Personal service. Everything Cornerstone used to be. I sent one email. Just one. To Patricia Chun. Subject line. Ready to talk about that conversation. Her response came in 40 minutes. Conference call Monday. Be ready to present. For the first time in 2 weeks, I smiled. Really smiled. Not because I was going to succeed, but because I was going to try. And trying meant my brother hadn't won. Not yet. The weekend crawled by. I revised my proposal 7 times. Practiced my pitch to my bathroom mirror. Felt ridiculous, but kept going, because what else was there? Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp, my phone rang. Patricia and 2 other Garrison executives on the line. I presented for 30 minutes. Answered questions for 20 more. Was honest about being new, being small, being just one person. But also honest about knowing their needs better than anyone. About response times. About quality. About giving a damn. The line went quiet when I finished. Then Patricia said 6 words that changed everything. Send over your service agreement template. They were considering it. Actually considering it. Garrison Industrial. $15 million account. Considering working with just me. I hung up and sat very still, afraid to move, afraid this was a dream. Then I got up, opened my laptop, and started drafting contracts. Because if this happened, when this happened, I needed to be ready. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail. But something made me pick up. Hello. Heavy breathing. Then, you did this. You turned them against me. My brother's voice. Shaking. Angry. Scared. I don't know what you're. Garrison. They canceled the renewal meeting. Said they're exploring other options. That's you. You poisoned them against us. I stayed quiet. Let him spiral. This is betrayal. After everything. After Dad built this for both of us. You're destroying his legacy because you're bitter. That broke my silence. I'm destroying his legacy? My voice came out cold. Controlled. You fired everyone who knew Dad's vision. You tripled prices on loyal clients. You turned people into resources and relationships into inefficiencies. You did this. Not me. You think you can survive on your own? You're nothing without. I hung up. Blocked the number. Sat there shaking. Not from fear. From something else. Something that felt like freedom mixed with fury, mixed with grief. Because my brother was right about one thing. Dad built this for both of us. But only one of us remembered why. Only one of us cared about the people, the craft, the legacy that actually mattered. My phone buzzed. Email from Patricia Chun. Subject: contract approved. When can you start? I read it 3 times. Then once more. Then I called my landlord and asked about breaking my lease early. Because I was about to get very, very busy. And somewhere across town in Dad's old office, my brother was just beginning to understand what he'd actually lost when he fired me. The 4-minute voicemail was still 3 months away. But the dominoes were already falling. I signed the Garrison contract that afternoon. My hand shook so bad I had to steady my wrist with my other hand. Not from nerves, from adrenaline, from vindication, from the sheer weight of what this meant. $15 million. Not all at once, obviously, but their component orders alone would keep me busy 60 hours a week. More than busy, buried. And I didn't have a factory, didn't have a team, didn't even have business cards yet. What I did have was Dad's old Rolodex, the actual physical one he kept in his desk drawer that I'd grabbed during my final cleanup. Every supplier he'd ever worked with. Every fabrication shop that owed him a favor. Every connection built over 30 years of being a decent human being who paid on time and said thank you. I spent that evening making calls. This is Cornerstone's former operations manager. I'm going independent. Need to talk partnerships. The responses were telling. Some were cautious. My brother had been making calls too, apparently. But most remembered. Old Pete from Reynolds Metalworks actually laughed. Your brother called last week, tried to squeeze us on pricing. Was a real piece of work about it too. You need fabrication? We're in. Same rates we gave your dad. By midnight, I had a network. Lean. Flexible. Loyal. Everything my brother's fancy consultants had called inefficient. Tuesday morning, I got a text from Maggie, Dad's old HR director. The one they'd fired for being redundant. Heard through the grapevine you landed Garrison. Proud of you. Your dad would be too. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I called her. Maggie, you still looking for work? Depends. You hiring? Can't afford you yet. But I'm going to need someone who knows how to build a real company. Someone who remembers what Dad stood for. Interested in a partnership. She was quiet for exactly 3 seconds. When do we start? That's how it began. Not with revenge. Not with some master plan. Just with people who remembered what it meant to build something that mattered. Word spread fast in our industry. Small world, manufacturing. Tighter than people think. By Thursday, I had 3 more calls. Smaller clients. The ones my brother had dismissed as not worth the overhead. 2 of them signed on the spot. Friday afternoon, I was in my apartment, my office now really, when my phone rang. Number I didn't recognize, but the area code was local. This is Marcus. Marcus. Danny Henderson. Jim's son? We met at the trade show last year. I remembered. Young guy, maybe 25, eager, smart. Being groomed to take over the family business. I remember. What's up? My dad told me what you're doing. Going independent. We're having issues with Cornerstone. They messed up our last order, wrong specs, and when we called, got attitude instead of solutions. He paused. Think you could handle our account? Henderson Industrial. Not as big as Garrison, but solid. 7 figures annually. Old family business, like Dad's had been. I can handle it. Good. Because between you and me, my dad's about to pull the plug on your brother anyway. The guy doesn't return calls. Sends us invoices with random upcharges, no explanation. Acts like we should be grateful they take our business. Another pause. That's not how your dad operated. No, it wasn't. So we're done with them. Question is, you ready for this? Because Dad's not interested in excuses. He wants the Marcus who used to call him at 6 a.m. when there was a problem, not at 9 a.m. after it became a crisis. That's still me. Then send me your info. We'll make it official Monday. After we hung up, I sat very still. 2 major accounts in 1 week. This was real. This was actually happening. My phone rang again immediately. I almost didn't answer. Thought it might be my brother calling from a different number. But it wasn't. It was Patricia Chun. Marcus, quick question. You have capacity for rush orders? We've got an emergency situation in our Michigan plant. Need custom parts by Wednesday or the whole line shuts down. This was a test. I knew it was a test. Could I deliver what I promised? Could I handle pressure? I can do Wednesday. You sure? Because if you can't, I can do Wednesday. She exhaled. Okay. Specs incoming. And Marcus? We're watching. This goes well, there's a lot more work where this came from. I spent that weekend barely sleeping, coordinating with 3 different fabrication shops, quality checking every piece personally, driving parts between facilities myself because I couldn't afford couriers yet. My truck became my office, my warehouse, my entire operation. Tuesday night, 11 p.m., I delivered the parts to Garrison's loading dock myself. Patricia was there, which surprised me. Executives don't usually work that late. She inspected the first piece. Then the second. Looked up at me. These are perfect. That's the standard. Your brother's last delivery was 3 days late and had a 14% defect rate. I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. You know what I told my team today? She smiled slightly. I said maybe we've been doing business with the wrong brother all along. That's when I knew. Really knew. This wasn't just going to work. This was going to be big. I drove home at midnight, exhausted, running on coffee and adrenaline. My phone buzzed at a red light. Text from a number I'd blocked, but must have texted from a different phone. We need to talk. This is getting out of hand. You're destroying what Dad built. I deleted it without responding, because he still didn't get it. Dad didn't build a company. Dad built relationships, built trust, built a reputation for excellence and integrity. And those things didn't die when my brother inherited the building and the equipment. They came with me, because I understood what my brother never would. In this business, people don't buy parts. They buy certainty. They buy sleep at night. They buy someone who answers the phone and actually gives a damn. My apartment lights were off when I got home. I sat in my truck for a minute, looking at the dark windows, thinking about Dad, about what he'd say if he could see this. Would he be proud? Disappointed that his sons had fractured? Both. Then my phone rang one more time. Another unknown number. I almost ignored it. Hello. Marcus? This is Bill Carver from Western Industrial. Your name keeps coming up in my circles. Here you're the guy who actually gets things done. Got a minute to talk about a potential partnership? I smiled in the dark. I've got all the time you need. The war my brother started when he fired me? It wasn't about ego anymore. It wasn't about revenge. It was about proving what Dad had always known, that quality and character matter more than credentials and consultants. And somewhere across town, in an office that used to smell like coffee and possibility, my brother was just starting to realize he'd made a catastrophic miscalculation. The 4-minute voicemail was still coming, still inevitable. But right now, at midnight in my truck, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about Wednesday morning, about building something real, about making Dad proud, and about how sometimes the best revenge is just being better at what you do than the people who doubted you. Month 2 hit different, harder. The initial adrenaline wore off and reality set in. I was working 16-hour days, 7 days a week. My apartment looked like a storage unit. Invoice folders everywhere. Sample parts on my kitchen table. My bed was just where I collapsed between clients. The money was coming in, sure, but barely faster than it was going out. Fabrication costs, materials, insurance. Every dollar I made got reinvested immediately. I was eating ramen and gas station coffee, while my brother posted pictures on LinkedIn of fancy dinners with industry leaders. Some nights I'd lay awake wondering if I'd made a huge mistake, if I should have just taken another job somewhere, anywhere. Started over quiet instead of loud. Then my phone would ring at 6 a.m. Another client, another problem I could solve, another person who chose me because they remembered what quality looked like. By week 6, I had 11 active clients. Not huge accounts, but steady, reliable. The kind of work that pays mortgages and builds foundations. Maggie was handling contracts from her dining room table. We were a two-person operation competing against companies with 50 employees. And we were winning. That's when things got weird. Suppliers who'd been friendly suddenly went cold. Calls unreturned. Quotes that came back triple normal rates. No explanation. I figured it out when Pete from Reynolds called me directly. Your brother's making moves. Telling people you're unstable. Bad credit risk. Says you stole proprietary information when you left. His voice got quiet. Even threatened to pull his business from anyone who works with you. My hands went numb holding the phone. He said what? Yeah. Had his lawyer send some intimidating letters. Most folks are ignoring it. They know it's garbage. But some of the bigger suppliers? They can't risk it. Corporate policy stuff. After we hung up, I just sat there, staring at nothing. My own brother wasn't just competing. He was actively trying to destroy me, sabotage me, make sure I failed so completely I could never recover. That night I got an email from a lawyer I couldn't afford. Subject line, cease and desist. He was suing me for tortious interference with business relationships, for theft of trade secrets, for violating non-compete agreements. None of it was true. All of it was expensive to fight. I called Maggie at midnight, woke her up. We might be done. What happened? I told her. The lawsuit, the suppliers, the walls closing in. She was quiet for a long time. Then, your dad had a saying. Remember? When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Another pause. Your brother's showing everyone exactly who he is. Question is, who are you? I didn't sleep that night. Just sat at my kitchen table, reading that cease and desist over and over. Looking for loopholes. Looking for hope. Then I did something crazy. I forwarded it to every client I had. With one sentence, this is what I'm dealing with. Thought you should know. Risky? Absolutely. Unprofessional? Probably. But I was out of options and out of patience with playing nice. The responses started coming in within hours. Patricia Chin called me directly. I've seen a lot in 30 years. But a brother suing a brother over made-up claims while he's losing clients because his work is substandard? That's a new low. She paused. We're doubling your contract. And I'm calling 3 people I know who need to hear about you. By the end of that week, for new clients. All referrals. All from people who saw that email and decided they wanted to work with someone who had integrity, not just lawyers. My brother's plan backfired. Spectacularly. Because he forgot something Dad taught us when we were kids. People remember how you make them feel. And threatening suppliers, suing family, destroying reputations? That made people feel disgusted. The lawsuit quietly disappeared 2 weeks later. His lawyer probably told him he had no case. But the damage to his reputation? That was permanent. And me? I was just getting started. Month 4 was when everything shifted. I hired my first employee, Tommy, a machinist who'd been laid off when my brother streamlined operations. Young guy, talented, hungry. He worked out of a rented garage space, and suddenly I could take on bigger orders. Maggie brought on an assistant. We moved from dining room tables to a small shared office space. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Built on our terms. The Garrison contract expanded. Patricia introduced me to colleagues at 2 other companies. Both signed on. My revenue tripled in 6 weeks. I was exhausted, stressed, running on fumes and determination. But I was building something real, something that mattered. Then I got the call that changed everything. Marcus? Winston Caldwell, Garrison's CEO. Got a minute. I almost dropped my phone. The CEO didn't call people like me. That's what VPs were for. Yes, sir. Of course. Patricia speaks highly of you. So do others. We're looking at consolidating our supplier network. Fewer partners, deeper relationships, higher volume. You interested in being considered? Interested? This was the kind of contract that could set me up for years. The kind that required a real facility. Real equipment. Real everything. Very interested. Good. Prepare a presentation. 3 weeks. Show us why we should bet big on you. 3 weeks to prepare the pitch of my life. 3 weeks to prove I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I worked like I'd never worked before. Maggie helped with financials. Tommy provided technical specs. We built a presentation that showed exactly what we were: small, agile, obsessed with quality, and built on the values that actually mattered. The night before the presentation, I couldn't sleep. Just kept rehearsing, revising, doubting. This was everything. If I landed this, I'd have made it. Really made it. If I failed, my phone buzzed at 2 a.m. Text from a blocked number. Heard about your Caldwell meeting. You're in over your head. Still time to walk away before you embarrass yourself. My brother. Still watching. Still bitter. I deleted it. And something in me hardened. Crystallized. This wasn't about him anymore. This was about proving to myself that I could build something Dad would be proud of. The presentation was at 9 a.m. I showed up at 8:30, suit pressed, materials organized, confidence I didn't entirely feel. Winston Caldwell and 4 other executives sat across the table. Patricia gave me an encouraging nod. I presented for 40 minutes, showed our growth, our quality metrics, our vision, our values. Didn't hide that we were small. Leaned into it. You're not getting corporate bureaucracy. You're getting direct access to people who actually care. When I finished, Caldwell leaned back. Studied me. Your brother came in last month. Pitched us too. Know what he focused on. Scale. Infrastructure. Capacity. All the right words. He paused. But when we asked about quality control, he couldn't answer basic questions. When we asked about turnaround on emergency orders, he talked about process optimization. He stood up, extended his hand. You focused on solutions, on partnership, on giving a damn. That's what we need. Contract's yours if you want it. I shook his hand, somehow keeping my voice steady. I want it. Walking out of that building, I had to sit in my truck for 10 minutes. Just breathing, processing. I'd done it. Actually done it. Landed a contract that would change everything. That afternoon, I called my brother. First time since he'd fired me. He answered on the first ring. What? Just wanted you to know. I got the Caldwell contract. The one you pitched for. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Congratulations, he finally said. His voice hollow. Defeated. Thanks. And brother? This isn't about revenge. This is about building something right. Something Dad would recognize. I hung up before he could respond. Because I meant it. This was never about destroying him. It was about proving that character and quality still mattered in a world obsessed with shortcuts and spreadsheets. 2 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello. Heavy breathing. Then, Marcus. It's me. We need to talk. Please. My brother's voice. Shaking. Desperate. Nothing like the confident MBA graduate who'd fired me 6 months ago. I'm listening. Not on the phone. In person. Please. I need. His voice cracked. I need help. And just like that, everything changed again. The voicemail came before I could respond. For minutes and 17 seconds. I listened to the whole thing sitting in my truck, engine off, rain started to fall. It started professional. Marcus, it's me. Look, I know things have been difficult, but we need to discuss the situation rationally. Then it crumbled. Fast. Clients are leaving. Henderson pulled out completely. Said they'd rather work with you. Garrison too. And now Western Industrial is asking questions. His voice got desperate. The bank's asking about our projections. The board, Dad's old partners, they're asking what happened. Why everything's falling apart. A long pause. Breathing. Then, Brad and Connor and Tyler? They left. Took their consulting fees and disappeared when things got hard. Turns out they were just collecting paychecks, not actually building anything. Maggie was right. You were right. Dad was right. Another pause. Longer. I'm losing the company, Marcus. Dad's company. Our company. And I don't know how to stop it. I thought I was smarter. Thought my education made me better. But I don't know how to actually run this business. I only know how to manage spreadsheets. And spreadsheets don't call you back when you've burned every relationship that mattered. His voice broke completely. I fired you because I was jealous. Because Dad loved what you did more than what I accomplished. Because you had something I couldn't buy with any degree. You had his respect. And I hated you for it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The voicemail ended with, "Please call me back. I'm begging you. I can't lose Dad's legacy. Not like this." Are you still watching? If this story is hitting different, hit that like button and drop a comment. Tell us what you'd do in this situation. Your thoughts matter. I sat there for 20 minutes, just listening to rain on the roof, thinking about Dad, about what he'd want, about forgiveness versus justice versus wisdom. Then I called him back. We met at Dad's grave. Neutral ground. My idea. My brother looked terrible, 20 pounds lighter, dark circles, suit wrinkled. The golden boy was gone. This was just a scared man who'd realized too late what he'd destroyed. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. I didn't respond. Just waited. I messed up. Completely. I thought I could improve what Dad built by applying modern business principles. Efficiency. Optimization. Growth. He laughed bitterly. Turns out Dad already knew something I'm just learning. Business is about people, not metrics. And I forgot that. Or maybe I never understood it. "You fired me," I said. Simple. Direct. I know. I was threatened by you. By how good you were at this. How natural it came to you when I had to study and learn and still never quite got it. He looked at Dad's headstone. He was proud of you. So proud. And I couldn't stand it. We stood there in silence. Rain getting heavier. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "I don't know. Advice? Help? Maybe just forgiveness." He met my eyes. The company's hemorrhaging money. Clients are gone. Employees are quitting. I've got maybe 2 months before the bank pulls financing. Before everything Dad built disappears. Here's the thing about revenge. It feels good in theory. In practice, watching your brother's life fall apart just feels sad. Empty. Especially when you're standing at your father's grave. "I can't give you clients back," I said. "They chose to leave because of how you treated them. That's on you." "I know. And I can't fix your reputation. You did that damage yourself." "I know that too. But..." I paused. Thought about what Dad would do. "I can teach you. If you actually want to learn. Not manage, lead. Not optimize, build. Not command, serve." He looked up, hope flickering. "You do that? After everything?" "Not for you. For Dad. Because he built something that mattered. And watching it die just to teach you a lesson helps nobody." I turned to face him fully. "But here's the deal. You step down from CEO. Bring in someone who actually knows how to run operations. You become what you should have been from the start, the business side. Finance. Strategy. Let the people who know manufacturing actually do manufacturing. You want me to give up control. I want you to admit you never had it. Control is an illusion. Leadership is earned." I softened slightly. "You're good with numbers. With projections. With the stuff Dad hated. There's value in that. But you can't do everything. And you can't do it alone." He nodded slowly. Processing. "What about you? Would you come back?" "No. I'm building my own thing now. But I'll consult. Guide. Help where I can. For Dad's memory." I paused. "But you need to make things right. Call every person you fired or pushed out. Apologize. Really apologize. Some won't forgive you. That's fair. But you try anyway. And the clients? That's harder. You burned those bridges. But if you rebuild the company culture, if you actually deliver quality again, maybe someone will give you another chance. No guarantees." We stood there as rain fell. 2 brothers at their father's grave, trying to figure out how to honor a legacy we'd both nearly destroyed. "Thank you," he whispered. "I don't deserve this." "No, you don't. But Dad taught us grace matters more than grudges. Took me 6 months to remember that. We didn't hug. Weren't there yet. Maybe never would be. But we shook hands. And this time, his grip was stronger. more honest. Walking away, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not happiness. Not victory. Just peace. Because revenge would have been easy. Watching him fail would have been satisfying. But building something better? Offering wisdom instead of spite? That was harder. And maybe that's exactly why it mattered. The rebuilding took 3 months. Slow, painful months. I consulted twice a week, teaching my brother what Dad had taught me. That people aren't resources, they're investments. That quality isn't expensive, it's valuable. That relationships take years to build and seconds to destroy. He brought back Maggie. Apologized publicly. Gave her full authority over HR and culture. She was skeptical, rightfully, but agreed to try. For your dad, she told him. Not for you. They rehired 4 of the people he'd fired. Not all wanted to come back. Some had moved on, found better situations. Couldn't blame them. But the ones who returned brought something crucial. Institutional memory. Knowledge. The stuff you can't learn from textbooks. My brother personally called every client he'd alienated. Most told him no. Henderson hung up on him twice before finally agreeing to a meeting. The company stabilized. Not thriving, not yet. But surviving. The bank extended their timeline. The board stopped talking about liquidation. Small victories. Meanwhile, my business kept growing. Landed 2 more major accounts. Hired 3 more machinists. Moved into a real facility, nothing fancy, but legitimate. Had Morris Manufacturing Solutions painted on the door. My name. My company. My way. Maggie stayed with my brother, but consulted for me on the side. Said she liked being needed in 2 places. Your dad would have loved this, she told me once. Both his boys building things. Different paths, same values. One Tuesday afternoon, my brother called. Got a question. Customer needs a specialized part. Outside our capability. You interested in the subcontract? This was new. Him asking for help. Admitting limitations. Growing. Send me the specs. We started collaborating. Nothing major, just occasional projects where our capabilities complemented each other. He'd handle the administrative side, I'd handle the technical. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt something. Not what we had before. Something different. Maybe better. 6 months after that voicemail, we met for coffee. First time just talking. No business. No crisis. I'm seeing a therapist, he said suddenly. Working through stuff. The jealousy. The ego. The need to prove I was better than you, than Dad, than everyone. That's good. She asked me last week what success looks like. I realized I'd been chasing Dad's approval my whole life, but never actually listened to what he valued. He stirred his coffee. He didn't care about my grades or my degree. He cared if I was decent, if I treated people right. And I wasn't. You're learning. Late. But yeah. He looked up. You could have destroyed me. Let me fail completely. Taken everything. Why didn't you? I thought about that. Really thought. Because Dad taught me something you forgot. We're family. And family means showing up even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Doesn't mean trusting blindly. Doesn't mean forgetting what happened. But it means giving a chance when someone actually changes. Am I? Change. Getting there. Some days better than others. I smiled slightly. But you're trying. That counts for something. We sat in comfortable silence. 2 brothers who'd been through war, slowly finding their way to peace. Think Dad would be proud? He asked quietly. Of you? Eventually. Of us? Maybe. We're still figuring it out. I finished my coffee. But we're figuring it together. That's gotta count for something. He nodded. And for the first time in years, I saw my brother. Not the competitor. Not the enemy. Just the kid I grew up with, finally growing up for real. The story could end there. Reconciliation. Lessons learned. Fade to black. But life doesn't end neat. It continues. Messier. More complicated. And what happened next? That's when things got really interesting. 1 year later. Dad's birthday. We stood at his grave again. Me, my brother, Maggie, Tommy, even old Pete from Reynolds. A small gathering of people who'd been part of Dad's world. My brother's company was profitable again. Not what it was, but stable, honest. He'd found his lane, the business operations stuff he was actually good at, and stopped trying to be something he wasn't. My company had grown to 23 employees. Real facility, real contracts, real legacy. We'd landed a national distribution deal that Dad would have been proud of. But more than that, we'd both learned what Dad had been trying to teach us all along. That success isn't about titles or degrees or proving you're the smartest person in the room. It's about showing up, delivering, caring, building relationships that outlast transactions. I've been thinking, my brother said as we walked back to our cars. What if we merged? Not like before, not one company swallowing the other, but a real partnership. Your technical expertise, my operational management. Equal partners, equal say. I stopped walking. You serious? Dead serious. We're better together. Dad knew that. Took me too long to figure it out, but I see it now. He paused. What do you think? Honestly, part of me wanted to say no. I'd built something mine, something I controlled. Merging meant risk, meant trusting him again, meant vulnerability. But I thought about Dad, about what he'd wanted, about legacy being bigger than ego. Let me think about it. 3 weeks of negotiations, lawyers, contracts, making sure everything was actually equal, actually fair. Maggie handled the details. She trusted neither of us to not mess it up. We signed the papers on a Saturday morning. Cornerstone Manufacturing Solutions. Combining Dad's original vision with my new approach. Both our names on the door. Both our reputations on the line. The first year was rough. We argued, disagreed, had to learn how to be partners instead of rivals. But we figured it out because we both wanted the same thing, to build something that mattered, something Dad would recognize. 5 years later, we're one of the top regional manufacturers, 43 employees, 15 major clients, known for quality, reliability, and actually treating people like humans. My brother runs operations and finance. I handle technical and client relations. We each do what we're actually good at. And it works. He's married now. 2 kids. Named his son after Dad. I'm his godfather. Never saw that coming. I'm still single, still married to the work. But that's okay. Different paths. We have dinner once a month. Sometimes talk business, sometimes don't. Sometimes we argue about Dad, what he'd think of our decisions. But it's family arguing now, not enemy arguing. Last month, a young guy came in looking for a job. Recent college graduate, MBA, confident. Reminded me of my brother 10 years ago. Why should we hire you? I asked. Because I'm educated. I understand modern business theory. I can optimize your operations and increase margins by at least 15%. I exchanged a look with my brother. He smiled slightly. Tell me, I said, what do you know about our clients? About what they actually need? He blinked, confused. Well, I'd need to review the data, but... Wrong answer. My brother leaned forward. We don't hire people who see clients as data. We hire people who see them as partners, who understand that relationships matter more than spreadsheets. The kid looked between us, lost. Come back in a year, I told him. Work in the industry. Get your hands dirty. Learn what manufacturing actually means. Then we'll talk. After he left, my brother laughed. Think we were too hard on him? Nah. If he's serious, he'll do it. If not, we saved everyone time. Dad would have said the same thing. Yeah, he would have. That's the thing about legacy. It's not about buildings or bank accounts or fancy titles. It's about values. About what you pass on. About whether the world's a little better because you were in it. Dad built something worth fighting for. We almost destroyed it fighting each other. But we figured it out. Eventually. Painfully. But we got there. And now we're building something together. Something that honors where we came from while creating something new. Something our kids, his actual kids, my metaphorical ones, can be proud of. The journey from that firing to here wasn't clean, wasn't easy, full of mistakes and pain and growth nobody asks for, but everyone needs. But standing here, now, looking at what we've built, worth it. Every painful step, every hard lesson, every moment of doubt, worth it. Because we didn't just save a company. We saved a family, saved ourselves, learned that being right matters less than being decent, that winning alone is just losing slowly, that the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so good it makes hate look pointless. Dad knew that all along. Took us a while to catch up, but we got there, together. Finally, if this story taught you something, inspired you, or made you think differently about family, business, or second chances, share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone else. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We've got more real stories about real struggles and real redemption coming your way. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for being part of this family. Until next time, remember that character beats credentials every single time.